there are more people living on sidewalks and under highway overpasses than I've seen in a long time. And that's just here. From what I hear, it's obviously worse in other places. There's a lot of reasons for that, and that's what I'll kind of get into a little bit. It was one Christmas day, and my brother was in the car with me, and we were driving from our fathers to our mothers to exchange presents and all the things you do on Christmas. And there was a homeless man standing there, and his sign said, "Merry Christmas, I'm hungry." Hey everyone, hope you're all doing very well. Spring is upon us in good old Texas. Temperatures are about to be in the 80s. Here we go, summertime. I'm dreading it if you cannot tell. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about as I scheduled ahead. And one of the things that I think is being lost in all of the chaos of this country right now is the homeless situation. I think that there are more people living on sidewalks and under highway overpasses than I've seen in a long time. And that's just here. From what I hear, it's obviously worse in other places. There's a lot of reasons for that, and that's what I'll kind of get into a little bit. But it's almost like I just want to bring awareness to it and assess it in a way that maybe stops looking at people, it just kind of like, I don't want to deal with this. Maybe there's something that we can do, or just our leaders can hear us talking about it and try and figure out something. But the big thing that's getting me is families. That number's increased. Veterans, that's always a touchy subject with me. The fact that our veterans can't be helped is beyond me. It's not a distant issue, like I mentioned. You're seeing it LA, San Francisco, New York, Chicago. I mean, all the big boy cities. People are just all over the place. I had a friend that went on business in San Francisco and said that he had to walk over people just to get into the hotel. Literally a line of people just laying out. Syringes floating down the street, human feces floating down the street. And that's sad. This is not what our country is supposed to be. I don't want that for anybody in the world, much less the United States. So here's the question. How do we get there? Why is it increasing? Why is no one able to fix it? I know that a ton of money has gone into this issue and it hasn't been fixed. I'm going to give you a quick story, and one of the reasons I'm having difficulties with it, and one of the reasons I think that I have pushed it aside, maybe subconsciously, is it was one Christmas day, and my brother was in the car with me, and we were driving from our fathers to our mothers to exchange presents and all the things you do on Christmas. And there was a homeless man standing there, and his sign said, "Merry Christmas, I'm hungry." And that was it. Well, we had a huge bag of leftover food. Great food. This wasn't scraps. This was fantastic feast, if you will. And I pulled over, and my brother said, "Hey, this is a good idea. Let's do this." And I just looked out the window and said, "Hey, Merry Christmas, man. This is a fantastic meal. We want you to have it." And he looked at me with disgust, and he said the following: "I don't need your food. I make $500 a day sitting here." Needless to say, it was about the reaction you're getting from me now, which is silence. I didn't know what to say. My brother and I just kind of looked at each other the entire ride, the rest of the way, and it left a mark. It left an impression. Now, is this every single homeless person? Absolutely not. But how do you know? And that's the problem. So someone like me, now every time I see somebody that on the side of the road with a sign or camped out in a sleeping bag, there's a part of me that just wants to keep going and wants to avoid the situation. I'm sure I'm probably not alone in that. So how do we deal with that? Why are there stories that we don't want to hear about with the homeless? Why are the streets filling up with tents and sleeping bags like never before? I've seen videos of Los Angeles, just to use one example, that are literal campgrounds, just tents of homeless people. How do we fix it? I don't know. So I'm just gonna throw out some ideas. So we'll talk about some numbers. On a single night in January 2024, over 770,000 people in this country were experiencing homelessness. That's an 18% jump from 2023. That's significant. That's a big jump in 1 year. There are a lot of reasons for it. New York reported more than 158,000 homeless individuals. Los Angeles, over 187,000. Family homelessness, which I was just mentioning, is up 39%. Nearly 150 children without stable shelter. And that gets me. Usually I have an extra soft spot for the kids, and rightfully so. These aren't just data points. This is a siren, people. This is something that if we care about our citizens, we need to fix it. So what's driving the spike? How about rent? I didn't know this. I knew it was up, but the median rent has climbed 20% since 2021. I know I'm not a I don't have a math degree, but that's 4 years ago. That's not a long time. You add in end of COVID protections, like no more rent freezes, no more eviction moratoriums. All of these things that COVID was delaying. Even student loans were delayed. Sadly, it took a pandemic to give some breathing room to some people that needed it. Once that ended, reality hit. And people lost homes. I don't know if it was lack of planning or what, but it was a huge hit when that happened. So pile on inflation, which we've talked about a lot in politics these days, stagnant wages, which again, that's another topic, but it matters in homelessness. When rent gets to beyond where you can afford it and your wages don't increase at all, and I'm not just talking about minimum wage, that's again another topic. I'm talking about overall wages where employees aren't getting raises and bonuses to match the rise in housing and rent. And then job instability. I mean, that's what I was trying to really get to, was unemployment up and down, this and that, and with COVID, lots of job instability. So the different side of the conversation is where it becomes difficult. In my mind, there are a lot of homeless people that have fallen into what I call the nothingness, which essentially is people who see panhandling and begging as a daily grind, as almost a job, like the gentleman on Christmas Day. He makes enough money out here, he picked the right corner, so why do anything else? Why go make minimum wage at McDonald's when you can sit here and make 3 or 4 times that in a day? Personally, it's hard to get into that mindset because I want to contribute something to this world. And I feel like people like this are a problem, whether or not it was the intent from the beginning. Were they dealt a bad hand? Maybe. But there are some who choose this lifestyle versus working out of it. And those are the ones that cause a lot of people to kind of turn the other way. When you see somebody and you pull up to a corner at a light and you see somebody with a sign, what do most people do? They don't want to make eye contact. I don't, and I'll admit that to you. You look away, you tap your steering wheel like you're singing a song. You do anything possible. Some people even hold their phone up so they act like they're on call, even though most vehicles should be hands-free by now. How do you separate the two? The people who truly need the help and are willing to do what it takes, and the people who have fallen into the nothingness. Do those people deserve help also? Well, sure, but what kind of help? I'll give you another example. I debated doing this because I don't want to come down on the homeless people. But there was a time when I was filling up for gas and I look over and there's a woman who had a scarf around her head, and she had her, what I assume was her daughter with her. And of course, that tugs at people's heartstrings. That's the intent. Sometimes it's a dog that they have. Sometimes it's attempt to sell flowers, which at least are doing something. But they're trying to get the sympathy. Well, when you carry your daughter and you use her, that's already a red flag to me. And it's upsetting because I want to help the child more than I do the adult. And whether that's right or wrong, we can debate that all you want. But I turned around and I went inside and I picked up a bottle of wine or something. Not an expensive bottle. It was a gas station wine, but it was good. And I came out and this woman was taking off her headscarf, putting her child into a car seat of a Cadillac Escalade. She proceeded to get into the driver's seat and drive away. Now, I don't know exactly why she was getting into the Cadillac Escalade, but there are only so many choices, so many reasons. And none of them add up to her needing to beg for money on the street. There was not another person in the car, I promise. Again, it makes me go, who are these people and who can I trust and who can't I trust? That's a problem. So it's not just about housing. It's often labeled a housing issue. I get that. Housing is part of it, but there's a bigger picture. Again, like I said, you've got mental illness, you have addiction, you have domestic violence issues that put somebody on the street, you have natural disasters. How about Hawaii? A couple of years back, people are homeless because of it. How about the wildfires in California? The hurricane in North Carolina and Georgia. People are homeless. Then you get into leadership and why this can't be solved, which is part of it. The visible heartbreak for me in that regard are the young people. I don't mean children. I mean 20-year-olds, early 20s, maybe late teens, college age, people who are in the streets begging. And that happened to me a lot in the state of Maine when I lived there. There was an opioid issue. You have fentanyl issues in this country. and a lot of hard drugs that are more addictive than anything in the world, and they cause problems. I was warned when I moved there by everybody that I knew, do not give any money to the people on the roads because they are looking to buy drugs. I have been known to want to help, have been known to want to give at least a little bit, toss them a $5, something. Tried to give food, that didn't work out. And the idea that somebody that's 20 years old could be in this situation where they're spending their day begging for money for drugs is so sad. And when I think about that, it makes me happy to do a show, to raise awareness for the issue, to bring up all of these very, very difficult stories and scenarios that cause people like me and likely you to kind of put this aside. Hey, we can bitch about Gaza conflict. We can complain about Ukraine. We can talk about our president and whether you like him or you hate him. That's easy to talk about because in reality, it doesn't affect us day by day. We have ignored this issue, in my opinion, overall. There are people that work for this. There are nonprofits. There are all sorts of organizations. But in the big scheme, it's few and far between. And then, of course, migration. This is an issue where people are going to finally probably turn on me. Some of you won't, and some of you will. When you have illegal immigration and people seeking asylum, and legal immigration to a point, you have the shelters filling up fast. The resources are thin. The food, everything that's available is being distributed to these people and not our own homeless citizens, our veterans, our children. So when they're included in that equation, then things get even more chaotic. And Chicago is a great example of that. I lived there for a couple of years, and I have friends there that continue to tell me that the steps in front of the Capitol building are illegal immigrants, and they're waiting for shelter, and they're waiting for this, and they're waiting for food. And again, those resources could be going to our own homeless. I'm not saying we should, who cares about all the other people? I'm just saying this is why there's a problem. So here we go. How about some numbers? Some more numbers. San Francisco dropped $846 million into homeless services. The result was actually a 7% increase in homelessness. It didn't do a damn thing. What is that money being used for? That's a lot of money. Insert sending that amount to Ukraine. Joke here. That's a lot of money. What did they do with that money? And maybe that needs to happen. Maybe there needs to be some sort of investigation as to how these homeless services are utilizing that. Meanwhile, Denver tested a basic income pilot. They directly gave cash to unhoused residents. A year later, 45% had secure housing. So is there a little economic boom there with homeless people that says at least it gets them in the home and it maybe inspires them to go further? New York launched a $650 million plan to support mentally ill homeless residents. The plan got a lot of attention, but it also got backlash because of privacy issues and enforcement questions on how it was being handled. But those types of policies and all that kind of look good on paper. People talk about them. Which ones reach people? San Francisco cleared encampments, but a lot of people argue that it just pushed people into darker alleyways with no real support. Houston tried something a little different. They coordinated housing with healthcare and case management, actual follow-up. It seemed to work. So maybe we should look at that and try to mirror it. And again, so the lesson becomes simple. It's not just about how much you're spending to this, it's how smart we're spending to try and help. Experts, I don't know who those experts are, but experts do believe there are solutions. In my research, that's all I saw. We can do this, we can do this, we can do this. I didn't see enough how we can do this to match that, but they believe it's there. Build more affordable housing. Well, that's number one, in my opinion. Rental support, number two. Obviously, somehow we approach the drug issue in our young people and old people. Mental health, that's an issue with so many things. With the senseless crime and the senseless deaths in this country, there are so many of them that could be prevented with mental health care. And I'm not a professional at that. I don't know how to do it, but there are people that do. And I need to light a fire under that ass, I suppose. Invest in wraparound services. These are things like the mental health and job training, long-term case management with city workers and people that do go and get educated for this, that want to help. That's all there. We need to pump it up. Hopefully this isn't just a pipe dream of mine. I mean, hopefully it's something that we can get accomplished. Solutions mean nothing, though, if we don't have the political will and the public support to do this. And it's not just tossing $840 something million at the issue and then backing away from it and going, well, we tried. There's got to be a follow-up and there's got to be some sort of conclusion to it. Like I said, it's very difficult, but until we stop seeing it as a nuisance and start seeing them as neighbors who need help, I don't think anything's going to change. And again, I can only do so much. This has opened my eyes a little bit to look into anything that we can do, but if we get more and more, then maybe we can help. Questions, let's demand answers. All the things I always say. Thanks for staying gray with me on this. This is a topic that I think is easy to stay in the middle and say, let's talk. I cannot imagine getting backlash about this topic, which will be refreshing. It'll be a nice breather that I don't have some people yelling because they think they know more. This is something we should all get behind, and there shouldn't be some sort of divide on this issue. I hope it made you think a little bit and made you feel, and if you did, or you know anybody going through these issues, tag us, like us, pass the word along, and have people listen. Like I said, it's a quick little snippet here with some numbers to back it up on the problem. It's something to think about. I'll be here for that. So let me know. Keep asking hard questions, stay in the gray, and see you next time for the next topic. Love you guys.
Man, I can feel this word. Shadows creep, streets of hurt.